It is Sunday evening at 8:20 p.m. Once again, I am recording another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show just hours before I've committed to release a new episode for the week. I'm going to talk about this show and where it sits in my schedule. But first, I need to tell you about what I did yesterday. And I promise you, it's related. Yesterday, I devoted the entire day to the landscaping in front of our home. It is the first time in 12 years that I've done my own landscaping at this house. We've typically brought in a professional crew to come in and do this. And over the last 2 years, the crews that we've hired had not necessarily done exactly what we would have desired to have done. So what happened was we have this holly bush. Actually, we have 3 of them. And we also have these barberry bushes, I think is what they're called. Let me just take a look and see if that's the actual name of them. It's not. It's a Japanese barberry. And these bushes are invasive. They aggressively grow, and they can overtake an entire landscaping bed. And I know that in Europe and other places around the world, you would call this the garden in front of your house. Here, where I've grown up, a garden is a plowed field that has been carefully planted with vegetables and stuff like that. So we call it landscaping in front of the house. But anyway, I worked in the landscaping, and what I had was these several bushes that were about 6 foot high, and they were encroaching over half of the sidewalk coming up to the house. And I decided to start doing a little bit of trimming, and it became very obvious that this has grown so far out of control that the only thing to do is to prune this thing back. And so I started pruning it back, and I realized, this needs to go all the way back to the bark, the trunk. And then I actually watched a few YouTube videos for both holly trees and barberry bushes, and they said that if you really want to maintain this as an ornamental part of a shrub for your landscaping rather than this big hedge, then this is what you do. And they show you basically sawing off the entire bush all the way down to its core, is assuming that it has a healthy root system. Now, these are very healthy trees in that they are producing the amount of leaves and everything. It's just that they were unhealthy in that aesthetically they weren't doing what I desired. And also they were just encroaching upon the space beyond what was proportional to the area that it's allotted for. So, of course, I began aggressively pruning back, and then eventually pulled out the little hand chainsaw, one of those little electric chainsaws that you probably have seen these on TikTok. I got the Fantic variety, and I basically, once I had pruned off all of the main leaves, I took those barberry bushes and took it right down to a trunk, if you will. Already, by the way, the very next day, there's a little piece of growth that shot right out overnight, which is good. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. But right now, it looks pretty ugly. I mean, don't get me wrong. the landscaping looks beautiful in that it is so much more simple and serene. The holly bush, I took the bottom part of the bush and trimmed it all the way back to the trunks. And I left the canopy and I trimmed and shaped the canopy. And my wife's like, you made our holly bush look like a bonsai tree. I personally think it's cool, but I know it's not the intended look, and it's not going to stay that way. The bottom shoots that I trimmed all the way back to the trunk of this tree. I'm not a horticulturalist or botanist, you can tell. So anyway, those will all start bringing growth in underneath, and I can start shaping that and doing what I intend to do. So the other thing that we did is we cleaned out all of the old mulch. We weeded all of the weeds, essentially took out 2 full bushes and trimmed hollies down to size, and one of them looks like this holly tree, bonsai tree. But it looks clean, and it also looks bare. And in some places, it looks like, dude, what have you done? That's ugly. That's not the way this is supposed to be done. It's like, this looks a little odd. However, again, thankful to YouTube creators who have documented taking these bushes, both hollies and barberry bushes, all the way down to their core. And then showing, hey, this is what it looks like in 6 weeks. This is what it looks like 3 months later. This is what it looks like after 6 months. And I'm like, okay, I feel confident that pruning is not going to kill this thing. And worst case scenario, if we did kill it, and when I say we, I mean my wife and I. She was out there helping me with this project yesterday. But if we did kill it, we would just dig it up, all roots and everything, and we'd plant something over and start again. And this actually became a metaphor for what I've been experiencing in my life and business. Unmanaged growth has been something that has just crept in over time, and it has gotten to the place where I wouldn't say that all of the things that are a part of the activities that I've committed to in my business are healthy. Some of it has overgrown in significant ways beyond what I think is the time and or space that's been allotted for it. Now, if you were to go back and listen to episode number 822 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, it's called The Most Powerful Journaling Practice I've Ever Experienced. And I've been journaling using my Plaud Note, Plaud Note Pro. It's a little tiny audio recording device that sits on the back of my phone magnetically, and I press record and I record my thoughts in it in the morning, throughout the day, checking in. These are the things that I'm doing. These are the things I'm thinking. You can go back and hear that entire episode. But I've been doing this for a long time now. Matter of fact, I'm going to just simply open up my Plaud Note app, and I'm going to go just to the one where it says daily logs here. 73. There are 73 daily logs in here. So it has been let's just say 73 days. This might be my 74th day. And it has been eye-opening, because one of the things that I shared that I do is I bring my transcripts of my daily logs, and I have a special prompt that helps me pull insights from it, that helps me recognize patterns. And more importantly than that, I actually have it give me reflections back to me and reveal to me what are some of the blind spots, things that I'm not seeing. What are some of the danger areas? Given what my stated values are, my goals, my desired outcomes, what am I doing that seems out of alignment with what I've stated is the life and business that I desire to create for myself? And oh my goodness, I would not encourage you to do this unless you're willing to see the full picture of really where you're putting your time, effort, and energy, and clearly having it reflect back to you exactly not what you say your desired outcome is, what you say your priorities are, what you say your values are, but you can actually see that maybe the invasive patterns of habit, actions, activities, commitments have grown beyond the boundaries of what is a reasonable landscaping for your life and business. So needless to say that not every action needed to be fully cut to the trunk to restart all over again. But there have been a couple of things that I've decided, you know what, this has got to go. This weekly commitment, this daily thing that I do, this needs to go completely. Then there have been things that I've been committed to that I'm like, okay, let's create some boundary for this. Let's trim this back a little bit. And from this point forward, we will not let it grow beyond this perimeter, this limit. And yet, you get a couple of good rains, and next thing you know, some sunshine, and boom, it just wants to spurt right back there. And you need to keep trimming, you keep trimming because it wants to grow back beyond that boundary. So pruning is not just a one-time thing. It's something that if I want to maintain the shape of things, if I want to have the beautiful life that I desire, there will need to be times when some things just need to be completely yanked out. Some need to be cut back to the core and start over and rebuild from scratch. And some just need to be pruned back, trimmed, and continued to be maintained. But maybe with some boundaries in place. I told you I would explain how that fits into the recording of this podcast. I have, as a result of being so consciously aware of and reflected back to me where I am putting my time, effort, and energy so clearly, I have found that there is no way for me to contemplate all of the things that I've got going on without setting some sort of ideal, IDEAL, amount of time and a set amount of ideal frequency at which I will do certain activities and or actions in my business. And so I went back to time blocking and giving certain activities and actions blocks of time on my calendar, not something that I'm going to say, okay, this is here to discipline me into these very rigid spaces, but instead to inform me of, hey, this is what I've chosen to say is a priority, and I want to test it with reality to see, can I accomplish the outcomes that I desire from each of these actions in my business within the time allot that seems to be more reasonable within the landscape of the week that I have. And it's been an eye-opening situation, to say the very least. So I use the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients, and I have found that I can get into, let's just say, a 90-minute or 2-hour block of time called my invitation engine. And when I'm there, the idea is to reach out and connect to people that I met at Social Media Marketing World, that I met at PodFest, that I have been referred to, that I have come across through various different means and methods, connecting with them, engaging with them, getting to know them, being curious about what's going on in their world, and then discerning, is there anyone here that is revealing anything where it makes sense for me to invite them to experience the type of coaching that I do? Is this somebody that's a potential client? This is something that I have deemed to be worthy of either a 90-minute or even 2-hour block of time, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And because I have well, obviously it's on my calendar and I'm sitting down and I'm doing this thing. And I never recognized this until I started to sit down and track with my daily journal, this recording my results. And 2 hours will go by, and technically speaking, I could reach out and connect and discern and have powerful movement forward on multiple fronts in many different relationships with, let's just say, anywhere between let's just say as never less than 5 people and maybe as many as 15 to 20 people within a 2-hour block of time. And in my mind, that's what I'm accomplishing when I just think about it, because I get into this flow state. But when I'm tracking consciously and logging this stuff, what's happened was I would get into that block of time and I'm like, okay, let's get started here. And then let's lock in and then report afterwards. Who are the people I actually reached out to? Talk about it. Let's document this. And then to realize, wow, I just spent 2 hours and I effectively reached out to 3 people. What? 3 hours, or I'm sorry, 2 hours and 3 people. How is that possible? Well, it's not because I was, reaching out and doing all the things that I had intended to do. It's that all of a sudden there was this invasive bush in my landscaping that was growing so aggressively that it was encroaching upon the boundaries of another bush, which is my invitation engine. And that bush that is invasive, that needed to be cut back to the core, was called CRM optimization, my client relationship management tool that I've created and built for myself. It's like, it'd be great is if I went in and I added these different kind of follow-up dates. And wow, what if I create a different rating system for the different layers of where people are in what I've learned about, the different filters of who makes a great fit and who's not a great fit for a client. And so that way my AI tools can go through my CRM and see what are the highest priorities, the most likely things. And I could customize this to nobody's business. And then sometimes it's like, let me, now I have the ability for my AI tool to go through and read somebody's entire LinkedIn profile, see the most recent 30 or 60 or 90 days worth of posts and give me some context. And by the way, also go through my entire Gmail archives and tell me about all of the email interactions. And hey, let's build out an entire profile here. And by the way, this is somebody who's not a client. This is somebody who isn't actively engaged. I found myself devoting like 30 to 45 minutes on a person that I just met and had a 17-minute conversation with in the hallway at Social Media Marketing World. And I'm thinking at the end of those 2 hours, wow, that was really productive. And then asking for a blind spot review and a reflection from ChatGPT says, you might want to to cut back and prune the amount of optimization, the amount of context building, the amount of this, and really just get to the heart of the matter and say, hey, what's going on? Ask some questions. Be curious. Maybe not everybody needs a CRM entry where you're logging every single detail. And I do realize, I have never been diagnosed with any sort of ADHD or anything like that. I've never gone to a doctor to think, but I have noticed over the years that I have the ability to hyperfixate on things, and I can actually get in and just dial in. And it's one of my superpowers when I'm in a coaching conversation. I can really stick right there with you, and I can hear things and see things that you are not seeing, and it's a powerful thing for me to go so deep and find patterns and see the thing beneath the thing. That's the real issue. And when I'm in my CRM and I'm logging something, I'm like, oh, I see. Oh my gosh, I see how if I was to do this, and if I could find a place to log this, and if I could optimize this, and if I could, and you know what? That'd be perfectly fine if the block of time was called CRM optimization. But guess what's not in my ideal week on my ideal calendar? There is no block of time that's called CRM optimization. And so where is that coming up? There's this part of me that wants to optimize the heck out of my CRM. But when I think about it, it's like, okay, in this season of business, do I have a CRM that is functional? Yes. Does it need to be fully optimized to be able to do the things that generate the income for the business? The answer is no. Okay. Right now in this season, would the best use of the invitation engine, wouldn't that be better to find people to invite and only invite, and then find some other place? But during this period of time, this is your space within the landscaping bed. Stay within these boundaries and prune everything back. And I'll give you a perfect example of how this works. The other day, on Friday, I came down here after listening to a podcast episode from a friend of mine. And his podcast episode was such a perfect example of episode 500 of Podcast Answer Man. Let me see if I can pull that up and tell you what the title of that is. Podcast Answer Man, it's called Podcasting as a Trust Engine. And my friend created an episode that was the perfect illustration of exactly what I was talking about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And the thought occurred to me, I could ask this friend of mine for permission to use his episode, the entire episode, and record a special introduction explaining why I'm sharing it here, and then putting a special call to action. And the thought occurred to me that during at this point, it's a 90-minute block of time because I've cut it back. It was 2 hours. It doesn't need to be 2 hours. It only needs to be 2 hours if I'm not efficient with those 2 hours. And what I've found is I wasn't being efficient. I could get it all done in 90 minutes. My desired outcome is. But even though I had knocked it back to 90 minutes, I had pruned it back to 90 minutes. What I found was I started thinking out and outlining in my mind exactly how I would put together this podcast episode. And I'm like, you know what? I could probably record the intro to that and the outro to that within about 15 to 20 minutes. And this whole episode would take no more than 30 minutes for me to produce. And then I could save it as an MP3 file. It will be done an entire week before it's published, which would give me plenty of time to send this friend of mine a text message and say, hey, check out this link. Do you mind if I release this as the next episode of my podcast Answer Me? All of that, by the way, because of the daily logging, because of the reflections, because of the blind spot awareness, I caught myself, instead of devoting that 30 to 45 minutes of my invitation engine block of time to do podcast episode production, I caught myself. I probably, it was like an offshoot of one of those bushes that seemingly got a lot of nourishment from the roots. It was inspired from within, and the sun it's like, oh, look at that bright shiny thing up in the sky. Let me shoot off into that direction. And boy, was it sprouting right out there. This idea was like, it was on its way. And I came in with the pruning shears. And I said, you know what? This is valuable. I do see this is really wonderful, but it's encroaching upon the boundary that it's designed to be in within this landscaping bed of my business. And so I had to prune that thought right there. And it's like, if this is still important, it will be there when it's time for me to work on Podcast Answer Man production at another block of time somewhere else. And I'm like, but no, you don't understand. Right now I'm inspired and I have the clear picture and I might lose my interest. And I'm like, this is the conversation I'm having with myself. And I'm like, no, I've got to cut this, because this is the kind of stuff that before I was tracking all of this, it was just happening all the time. It was just one that what I'm sharing with you is one example of just how unmanaged activity, unintentional activity, just ongoing, repeating the same things. So many things are good things to do. So many things are worthy things to do. But not everything is the right thing that is aligned with what you want to create as your desired outcome, and or the life that you're building for yourself and those you love around you. So some things need more of a trim, some things need radical pruning, and you don't know that until you get out there and really assess just how much is overgrown. For me, I've been taking a very close look at my landscaping bed in front of the house, and it looks beautiful to me. It looks bare. The bonsai-looking holly bush is an interesting sight. It won't always look that way, but it does look interesting. The barberry bushes, which are cut all the way down to just like the little trunk area that's down on the ground, it looks like I destroyed my landscaping. It was radical what I did there. But I see it as all of this free space that has allowed more clarity. It's so much more spacious. It is definitely more intentional looking, and it's more curated. And I can see the possibility of actually, in not as long as it would have taken previous. I mean, there's real possibility for what I desire because of just how much I've pruned, just how much I've cut back, not just in the landscaping, but in my calendars, in my commitments, in the model of how I've built my business, in the spending, in various different tools, and just also pruning my identity. Who am I if I don't record every single week? I've been evaluating that, because one of the things that I've noticed is that my business model, now that I've really planned it all out, I look and it's like, oh, wow, the way that I've built my business, the commitments that I have, it's not possible within a 40-hour a week right now. That to operate my business at its ideal, I need at least 50 hours a week. And that's why I'm sometimes recording Podcast Answer Man on Thursday nights at 8 or 9 o'clock. And I'm recording a Cliff Ravenscraft show on Sunday night at 8 or 9 o'clock, just hours before those episodes are committed to go live. And I've been finding and trying to find and fit other places to put those into the ideal calendar as a ideal block of time for production. And I'm like, wow, but that takes up these other things. And so there are too many bushes in the amount of space for my business landscaping. My landscaping bed has this metaphorical amount of time, and I have in seasons hyper focused on doing this thing over here and doing this thing while losing my conscious awareness and focus on so many other things. And I drop the ball until finally those things are about ready to like kind of just go away and wither up. And I'm like, no, that needs some fertilizer and that needs some care. Let's give this and then I do that and the other things get invasive and grow. It's like, oh, okay. And so lots of pruning happening over here. And it can look ugly before it looks healthy. And that's how things are looking right now. I show up at the last minute, hitting the episode on this podcast. I'm cutting back the production complexity. I just recently did a podcast Instagram episode talking about my new live stream strategy. And I did it one time. And I'm like, wait a second. But I know that I need to find out for me what is the ideal picture of, and I have that. I know the ideal picture of the weekly life and the business and the income and the products and the service. I have all of that because I've lived it before and I see the bits and pieces that I want to assemble over here and move to here. I've got a very clear picture of my future, and what I have is a bunch of systems that I have used throughout the years, and I'm like, I'll commit to all of those. And I'm like, wait a second, all of those don't fit within this ideal week. And so I'm learning as I go. Each week, my ideal calendar gets modified as it hits reality. And I am giving myself grace. And for the last 5 weeks, I've been asking myself, is a commitment to once a week, every week for 2 different shows, the Cliff Ravenscraft Show and Podcast Answer Man, is it a commitment that stays within the landscaping canvas of my life and business? And the answer so far every time, yes, here are all the reasons why. And so don't worry, I'm not reneging yet, and I don't intend to come here and to renege on my commitments to continue to show up for the Cliff Ravenscraft Show and Podcast Answer Man. But I do know this. Some other things in my work week need to be pruned, and some will be cut all the way back down to just that little nub right above the roots, to its trunk, to its core. And I'm certain that there will probably be at least 1 or 2 things that just completely gets pulled out altogether, roots and all. And it's crazy because I've been very attached to the more simplistic way that I've built my business over the years, but there's just been so much that it's not all been done together as consistently as I've been doing lately. And I'm realizing, wow, if I do everything that I say is important in my business, I wear myself out. I'm running myself too thin. So that's what came up for me as I sat outside yesterday for hours doing my own landscaping. It was, I got to tell you, it was wonderful to be out there. It gave me so much time to just be, and I enjoyed the process. And wow, did it speak to me? The irony of pruning and cutting back externally was a reflection of what I've been doing and what I'm in the process of doing internally. So I would love to ask you, what's going on in your world that has grown beyond its intended place? You know, the idea was, well, maybe we just need to rip out everything and just bring in all new bushes. And sometimes that may be something to consider. And it is something that we did consider about our landscaping. Maybe we rip out all of these old bushes and let's plant something new here. And there may be a few new things that come along that actually does complement the things that we already have. But for me, at least this time, the next level started by just cutting back and pruning. And some of it all the way back to the core. And let's be intentional about keeping its shape so that it doesn't extend beyond the shape and the area for which it's designed. And that's what I've been working on in my ideal calendar. I hope that maybe, just maybe, this might speak to you in a way that resonates. And if it does, if you're in a season of your life where you're like, man, I resonate with all of the actions and activities and the things that I'm doing, and it just seems like at the end of the week, at the end of the month, I'm doing all of these things, but I have to ask myself, am I getting the results that I desire? If you would like to talk to somebody to help you figure out and get clarity on where to snip next, where to cut back, where to prune, sometimes it's helpful to have a mirror. And if you would like to have a conversation with somebody, feel free to email me and ask me what's available. My email address is cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do in your life to the next level.